Let's talk about the 2025 NFL draft. And what better way to talk about the NFL draft by doing a mock draft? Now, this is only for the first round, for all teams that will be in the first round. So this is pick 1 through 32. So let's get into it. With the first overall pick, it's the Tennessee Titans. And they had an executive that came out a month ago, and he said that they would not pass on the opportunity to take a generational talent with this pick. Well, the Tennessee Titans, they have a lot of question marks with this roster. The right side of the offensive line, they could bring in someone like a Travis Hunter, like Abdul Carter, but they don't have a quarterback on this roster. And I do believe the best quarterback in this class is Cam Ward. I have them selecting Cam Ward with the first overall pick. Cam Ward, 39 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions his last season, 4,313 passing yards. Every single year in his career in college, he continued to get better, and he's a transfer. And everywhere that he has went, he made the team better around him. That is what you look for in a franchise quarterback. I know the most popular thing to do is give this team Travis Hunter, give them Abdul Carter. Well, I'm recording this before free agency. They could go out there, they could bring in Sam Darnold. And if they're comfortable with Sam Darnold, I'm talking about Coach Callahan here and their brand new general manager, then you could take one of those two top guys, an Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. But as it stands right now, you have Will Levis and Mason Rudolph as your quarterbacks on this roster. You're not going to win many football games with those quarterbacks. I don't care who you have on your roster. You can have prime Walter Payton. You can have prime Jerry Rice. If you do not have that quarterback position down to the T, it doesn't matter. And the Tennessee Titans, like I mentioned, you're bringing in a brand new general manager. You just fired Rand after 2 years. This is Coach Callahan's second year being the head coach with the Tennessee Titans for this upcoming season. You need to give him help, and you need to give him a franchise quarterback. So I have them selecting Cam Ward with this pick. He's going to be a very good player. You get your franchise quarterback. You can put some more pieces around him in the future. But now look at the Tennessee Titans. They're not a horrible team. Will Levis lost him some football games this year. He threw a costly pick 6 against the Chicago Bears. And that Titans defense held Caleb Williams to 95 passing yards. As a matter of fact, the Titans defense was the second best in terms of passing defense and second best in total defense. So their defense, they can ball out. And they did that when Will Levis turned the football over at a high clip with the fumbles, with the interceptions. Go out there, find the right quarterback, and continue to build this offensive line. And Coach Callahan brought his dad over. They've invested a lot of money and a lot of draft resources in this offensive line. So it's just a matter of time before the offensive line gets better. You have J.C. Latham. You selected him in last year's first round draft class at the tackle position. You have Peter Skoronski. You selected him in the first round 2 years ago. You bring in Cushenberry. Unfortunately, he did tear his Achilles, but hopefully he can come back next season stronger than ever. So you had the big 3 right there. Continue to build this line, get the quarterback of the future, and hopefully everything else will pan out. And when you look at wide receiver, they have Calvin Ridley. He's a true number 1. And you have Nick Westbrook-Akine. You have Tony Pollard in the backfield with Tajay Spears. You have good players. And Chigga Congo at the tight end spot. The Tennessee Titans, they have talent. I know if you're a Titans fan, you may want Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, but those guys won't matter as much if you don't have the right quarterback. With the second overall pick, this is where things get very tricky because the Cleveland Browns could easily go with Travis Hunter with this pick. A guy that can play wide receiver, can play cornerback for you. He's one of the best players in this draft class. To me, he's my number 2 player in this class next to Abdul Carter. But the problem that the Cleveland Browns have, they don't have a quarterback on this roster. You have Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is not a good player. Hasn't been able to stay healthy. Tore his shoulder up. Had a torn ACL earlier in his career with the Houston Texans. Tore his Achilles, middle point of the season. Then he retore the Achilles just a couple months ago. And they don't have the money to go out there and bring in a guy like Sam Darnold if he's demanding top dollar. So even though I want to see them go with Travis Hunter with this pick, I have them going Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from Colorado. Now, this is not the most popular pick. I understand that. But when I look at the Cleveland Browns right now, Myles Garrett, he just requested a trade. You could move on from Myles Garrett, bring in another first-round pick or 2, and then you can go out there and bring in another wide receiver or cornerback. But you have to bring in a guy like Shedeur Sanders right now. You don't want to roll the dice and go out there and put Justin Fields as your starting quarterback, and you only know that he's going to be a bridge quarterback at best with Kevin Stefanski. You want to go out there, put Shedeur Sanders on a rookie deal, hopefully move off of Deshaun Watson after next season. And when I look at Shedeur Sanders, he is a very good football player. 37 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He will hold on to the football for too long at times, but he has the best accuracy in this class, especially going deep down the field, and his poise is incredible. Do I think that he's going to be the next big thing in the NFL in the next year or two? Not just yet. But when you put him with a coach like Kevin Stefanski, who went out there and made the NFL playoffs with Joe Flacco, who made the NFL playoffs with Baker Mayfield, I think there's something here with Shedeur Sanders and with Kevin Stefanski. And I do understand that you have Deion Sanders in the background. Let me just throw these names at you with the Cleveland Browns. You have Jerry Jeudy, very good wide receiver. He looked like a true number one. David Njoku, one of the best receiving tight ends in the NFL. And you have Elijah Moore. The culture of the Cleveland Browns over the last 30 years, it has been terrible. But with Kevin Stefanski, Shedeur Sanders should be okay. Get the ball out quicker, and hopefully you get your franchise quarterback of the future. Now, this brings me over to the New York Giants. The Giants, they need a quarterback, just like the two teams in front of them. Unfortunately, there's not another quarterback that I have going in the first round. Now, you will hear a lot of reports say Jackson Dart. Some scouts have him as the second best quarterback on the board. Some scouts have him as the third best quarterback on the board. This is no disrespect to Jackson Dart. This is no disrespect to Will Howard. These are all smoke screens. We just saw this a few years back with Will Levis. Will Levis showed up to the green room. He did not get drafted in the first round. Do not fall for this. If you did not hear these quarterbacks' names going into the first round over the last few months, it's not going to happen on draft night one. I'm sorry to tell you. Will Howard, very talented. Jackson Dart, very talented. Not worthy of going in the first round. I can see the New York Giants going out there and potentially talking to a guy like Sam Darnold and trying to bring him in, because Joe Shane, he's on his last leg with Brian Dable. And the Giants right now, they are not painted in the best light because they let Saquon Barkley go to the Philadelphia Eagles. They're in the Super Bowl as I record this video against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they decided to keep Daniel Jones. So the best case scenario in this situation, go out there, sign Sam Darnold, build up that offensive line, those pieces in free agency, and bring in Travis Hunter, cornerback / wide receiver out of Colorado. The kid is phenomenal. He's a spectacular talent. This is the definition of a generational talent. You will rarely see a player like this come out of college ever again. As wide receiver, he had 1,258 receiving yards, 15 receiving touchdowns, and he had 4 interceptions on the season. He was so dominant, he won the Heisman Trophy and can use him on both sides of the football. And this is a Giants team. They need all the talent that they can get. Now, I do not believe that he will be playing both sides of the ball every single week, but you could work in special packages to use him in as a slot wide receiver or even an outside wide receiver. When I look at Travis Hunter, he could play both sides of the ball, but he's a better cornerback right now than he is wide receiver. You bring him over to the Giants, he'll sell some more tickets, and hopefully this can help propel them for the future and potentially save the jobs of Joe Shane and Brian Dable. With the 4th overall pick, this is a slam dunk here with the New England Patriots. You have a brand new head coach in Mike Vrabel. He's an aggressive head coach. What did he do with the Tennessee Titans? He ran the football with Derrick Henry, and he tried his best to protect Ryan Tannehill. Well, you have a special quarterback in Drake May, who you took in last year's first round. And Drake May, he needs help on the perimeter, but the Patriots are going to have a lot of money. Go out there and bring in a guy like T. Higgins in free agency if you can. Get this kid some offensive line help. I don't care who you have on the outside. If you don't have those big blockers up front to protect Drake May, it doesn't matter. Will Campbell, tackle from LSU. Now, I can see them going Kevin Banks here with this pick, but Will Campbell to me is the best offensive lineman. 0 sacks allowed, 0 pressures allowed, 0 quarterback hits in the last 15 games at LSU. This kid has been phenomenal. Since he has been a starter with LSU, he has been great. Not good, he's been great. And he's 6'6", 325 pounds. You put him in, you run to the podium. Hopefully you build this offensive line with Drake May and it can help you make some moves in the future. But protecting Drake May should be number 1 on this list right now. It's fine to go out there and bring in the wide receivers, bring in the running backs. Those are the sexier positions. But don't forget, 2 of the teams right now that are competing in the Super Bowl, they have 2 of the better offensive lines in the league. Don't forget that. Go out there and protect your investment in Drake May. With the 5th overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars, brand new head coach in Liam Cohen. Trevor Lawrence not able to finish out the season. He hurt his shoulder and he got concussed by Azeez Al-Shaair in the game against the Houston Texans. So you can go offensive line with this pick, but I like the tackles that they have. They're just very young. And we saw what Liam Coen was able to do with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He helped develop that offensive line, and he gave the Tampa Bay Buccaneers something that they haven't had in the last 4 years, a true run game. You have Tank Bigsby, you have ETN. So I don't see them going with Ashton Jeanty with this pick. And I look at the wide receiving position. You have Evan Ingram at tight end. You have Brian Thomas Jr., who you took in the first round last year's draft class. You need defensive help. Now, they can go Will Johnson, cornerback, who is a very good player, or they can do this. You have two very good edge rushers, but they're not consistent just yet. You have Trevon Walker. You also have another good pass rusher in Josh Allen. But the middle of this defense, they're not consistent enough. Go get Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. Tremendous player. 3 sacks on the year, will eat up double teams. The reason why I'm saying go out there and get another defensive lineman instead of getting a cornerback, if your front seven can get home, it will help out the jobs of those defensive backs on the back end. We have seen this throughout history. Let's go back 3 years ago. The Philadelphia Eagles secondary, it wasn't the strongest, but that front seven got home every single time, and it made the jobs easier on the guys on the back end. And when you look at this division, you'll potentially have Cam Ward with the Tennessee Titans. You have CJ with the Houston Texans and Anthony Richardson with the Indianapolis Colts. You need some big athletic defensive linemen up front, some disruptors. You already have that with Trayvon Walker. You already have that with another good pass rusher in Josh Allen. Go get you a 3 technician that can go out there and can beat you up on the interior. Go with that big defensive tackle in Mason Graham. With the 6th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders, they need a quarterback. Now, they can go out there, they can bring in Russell Wilson. You have Pete Carroll as your head coach. We know the connection there with the Seattle Seahawks. You have Chip Kelly back in the NFL. That's what's up. He's a great offensive mind. As long as he's not your head coach, you'll be fine. But he's a top paid coordinator already. Did a tremendous job with Ohio State. So the Will Howard connection is going to be there. But like I mentioned before, I don't see a quarterback going in the first round besides Shedeur Sanders and also Cam Ward. But you have an edge rusher that's still on the board. You have Mad Max Crosby, who is a great defensive player. You selected Tyree Wilson a few years back. That hasn't panned out just yet. He looks like a bust. He can't stay healthy. He can't get to the quarterback. But I know someone that can get to the quarterback. My favorite player in this draft class. In my opinion, the best player in this draft class, Abdul Carter, edge rusher from Penn State. It's a no-brainer. Go out there, run, and get him. 12 sacks in a year, 2 forced fumbles. Imagine Micah Parsons, but a bigger, faster version of him. That's what Abdul Carter is. And you have him with Max Crosby in this division with Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and also with Bo Nix. You can make every quarterback's life hell. Max Crosby's already a top defensive end in this league. You go out there, you bring in Abdul Carter, and with the money that you have in free agency, bring in a quarterback like a Russell Wilson and select a Will Howard in the 2nd or 3rd round. You're cooking with something there. In just a matter of just a couple of moves, the Raiders could be back on top in this division with the pass rushers that they have. But in order for you to compete in this division, you have to get after those franchise quarterbacks. Look at what the Chiefs have. They have Chris Jones, George Karlaftis. The Los Angeles Chargers, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. The Denver Broncos, Nick Bonito. He can get to the quarterback at a high rate. Go out there, bring in another pass rusher to help out Max Crosby. That should put you over the top. With the 7th overall pick, the New York Jets, they need a lot of help offensively. This is a Jets team. They have a lot of aging veterans like Aaron Rodgers. Breece Hall's a very good running back, but he hasn't been the same because the offensive play calling was so terrible. This was a wasted season with the New York Jets because Nathaniel Hackett was a terrible offensive coach. You had Robert Saleh. He got fired early in the year. You're bringing over Aaron Glenn, who's a former defensive back for the New York Jets many decades ago. He just coached up a very good defense with the Detroit Lions, and half of the team was injured on that side of the ball. They need another edge rusher. Jermaine Johnson will be back, but he tore his Achilles this year. You thought Hassan Reddick was going to make some noise this year? Not so much. Hassan Reddick did little to nothing this year with the Jets. I have them selecting Mikael Williams, edge rusher from Georgia. Very good player, very good athleticism, 5 sacks in a year, 2 forced fumbles. You can use him in a spy. He is similar to his teammate and Jalen Walker, who I'll talk about in the next couple of seconds. But when you look at Mikael Williams, can come off the edge, be a very good run stopper, get to the quarterback, just a very good defensive lineman to have. And you can flip him back into coverage if you want to. I don't see Aaron Glenn doing that, but he saw what Aiden Hudson was able to do up close and personal. I think he'll want another defensive end of his own in Mikael Williams. With the 8th overall pick, the Carolina Panthers. Now, earlier in the season, Bryce Young got benched, and they were on pace to go out there and have the first overall pick. And at that point, all hell would have broke loose. They put in Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton won that game against the Las Vegas Raiders. And the next thing that you knew, Andy Dalton got into a car accident, and I'm happy that he's okay. He hurt his thumb. You push Bryce Young back to the starting lineup. Bryce Young actually looked like a franchise quarterback on the back half of the season. But the one thing that did not look good was their defense. And if you're a Panthers fan, you could say, well, we need to address wide receiver. You selected Xavier Legette in the first round in last year's draft class. You have Jalen Coker, who came in as an undrafted free agent, gave you good production, and you're going to bring back Adam Thielen next season. You can get a wide receiver in the second or third round. We have seen this historically in draft classes. Your defense needs help. You gave up 3,000 rushing yards this year. You lost 4 games by 1 score because your defense is so terrible down the stretch. It took you to go into overtime against the Arizona Cardinals and against the Atlanta Falcons to win those games because your defense was so bad. Go out there and select Jalen Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia. Back-to-back Bulldogs coming off the board. Now, Jalen Walker is not the same pass rusher that Mikael Williams is. He did have 6.5 sacks on the year. For one, Mikael Williams played half of the season injured at the college level. Jalen Walker, he's one of those guys. He's a refined pass rusher, but he can also stop the run. He's similar to Brian Burns, but he's more athletic than Brian Burns. He has a higher motor. So I believe that this would be a very good pick for the Carolina Panthers. With the 9th overall pick, the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints, they're in cap hell. They need all the help that they could get. I wish that they could draft a new general manager, but they can't. They're still rocking out with Mickey Loomis. Derek Carr more than likely will be on the roster next year. You'll bring in a brand new head coach more than likely in Kellen Moore. Your defense, you need to bring in an edge rusher, but all the best edge rushers are already taken up. I look at the Saints, they have a big need at the wide receiving position. Chris Olave is a very good player. Rashid Shaheed's a top deep threat in the NFL before he tore his meniscus this year. Chris Olave, can he stay healthy long enough? And concussions, they bother me. The Saints need to go best player available. I have them selecting wide receiver. Terrion McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. Video game character come to life. He is 6'5", 215 pounds, 1,319 passing yards, 8 receiving touchdowns on the year. That's 1,319 receiving yards, on the year. McMillan, very good player. What you see in Mike Evans, that's what this kid could potentially be. What you see in Drake London, that's what he could potentially be. And the crazy thing about him, he has blazing speed going down the field. He's a fast, physical wide receiver. Will it be times where he struggles against the press? Sure, but he did not have a good quarterback this year. And what's the one thing that Derek Carr is good at? Pushing the ball deep down the field to Rashid Shaheed, to Chris Olave, and that could be the same with McMillan with this pick. With the 10th overall pick, we have the Chicago Bears. The Bears need all the help in the world on the offensive line. Tyler Booker, guard from Alabama. Very good player. You could put him at tackle. I think that he'll be a better interior offensive lineman. You have a brand new head coach in Ben Johnson. He helped build up that offense with the Detroit Lions. And what the Detroit Lions do in those early years with Dan Campbell, they built the offensive line. Caleb Williams will be a very good quarterback in this league, but you have to give him protection. Continue to build up this offensive line. You selected Darnell Wright a few years ago in the first round. Tyler Booker is a very good interior guard. On the year, only allowed two sacks on over 700 snaps played. Get him on this roster to help out in the run game and also help out in the pass game. With the 11th overall pick, we have the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers could trade back with this pick. The 49ers had a rough year. Brandon Ayuk got injured early in the year. Deebo Samuel was very inconsistent. Your most consistent player on the offensive end was George Kittle. You're going to run it back for one more year, but you need offensive line help. Trent Williams missed time down the stretch. This offensive line has not been good. Now, they did draft an interior offensive lineman last year. He's very good this season in his rookie year. Why not go out there and bring in someone like Josh Simmons from Ohio State? Very good tackle. He could play left tackle. He could play right tackle. And this is going to be a key here. You can start him alongside Trent Williams. And when Trent Williams finally decides to hang him up, you can slide him into that situation over there at left tackle. But he's a premier player at the Ohio State level. 6'5", 310 pounds, get some more beef up front, help out Brock Purdy since he had to run around for his life. And part of the reason why the Chiefs won that Super Bowl a year ago over the 49ers, they did not have enough pass protectors up front to help out Brock Purdy. So he's running around for his life. With the 12th overall pick, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys, they need wide receiving help. You have a brand new head coach and Schottenheimer. Now, Schotty's the former offensive coordinator, but he did not call offensive plays. That was Mike McCarthy. The Dallas Cowboys need receiving help. You do have CeeDee Lamb. You have Jalen Tolbert. There's something there. Jake Ferguson's a very good tight end. They have pieces on the outside that can help them win football games right now. But I look at Rico in the backfield. Rico is not going to be one of the best running backs in the league for years to come. Solid number 2 back to have. But they struggled this year running the football. You can say because they're offensive line. But they have young pieces on this offensive line. You have Tyler Guyton. There's a lot of upside there. Tyler Smith is already incredible at the guard and tackle position. Cooper Beebe, there's a lot of upside there with him. Maybe Zach Martin decides to come back. That'll be great for the Cowboys. I look at Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. I've been saying this for the last 2 months. Bring in Ashton Jeanty. He's from the Texas area. He's from Irving, I believe. He wants to be a Dallas Cowboy. You get your Ezekiel Elliott 2.0. But the difference is this. This kid can carry the team on his back. Don't believe me? 2,601 rushing yards on the year. 29 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 7 yards a carry. If it wasn't for Travis Hunter playing both sides of the football, he would have won the Heisman Trophy this season. One of the best players in this draft class, and he is undervalued because he plays the running back position. But let's not forget this. Saquon Barkley, you could say he was undervalued, and the same with Josh Jacobs. Look at those guys now. In order for Dak Prescott to go back and look like how he looked 2 to 3 years ago, you got to put the football in someone's hands. Dak Prescott is a better quarterback, just like many quarterbacks in this league, when he can hand the football off and he can go out there and he can be that elite game manager. Make this Ashton Jeanty's backfield and select him with this pick. And you can still use Rico in the future. With the 13th pick, the Miami Dolphins, they need offensive line help. Tua has struggled to stay healthy. Tua can't push the football deep down the field effectively enough because of the fact that he can't stay healthy. Part of the reason why he can't stay healthy, he's getting beat up a lot up front. Kevin Banks here should be the pick. Very good tackle from Texas. Stands at 6'4", 320 pounds. The reason why I don't have him going higher, he's only a left tackle. You're not going to go out there and switch him around. You can, but he is primarily a left tackle. He's not going to give up those many pressures. He's not going to give up those many hurries. You can play him alongside Teron Armstead. You help build his offensive line, run the football. And that's another thing with the Miami Dolphins this year. They struggled to run the football with Raheem Mostert and also with Devon Achane. That was not the case last year. And part of that is because their offensive linemen, they left this team. They really missed Robert Hunt when he went to the Carolina Panthers. Bring some more help up front for Tua and get this man an actual run game this year. And hopefully he can stay healthy and we see the Miami Dolphins in the playoffs yet again. With the 14th overall pick, the Indianapolis Colts. Their offensive line, I like the pieces that they have. Their quarterback is still a question mark. Wide receivers, Alec Pierce had a breakout year this year. You have Michael Pittman Jr., he's a true number 1 wide receiver, and you have Josh Downs. So it's no need to go out there and bring in a wide receiver. I look at their defense. You just selected Latu in last year's draft class in the first round. He has potential to be a great edge rusher, and you have Kwity Paye. I look at the linebackers. I like Zaire Franklin. He's a tackle machine. In the secondary, they have a lot of young players. I look at the tight end position, and I look at Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. Now, this is a controversial pick for many because he's a tight end. You rarely see tight ends go in the first round. Last year, we saw Brock Bowers. We know what he is right now. He's already one of the best tight ends in the league. You want to help maximize potential with Anthony Richardson? Get him another weapon on the outside and on the inside. Yes, you're hearing that correctly. They lined up Tyler Warren as a wide receiver in some games. They lined him up inside the slot, outside wide receiver, tight end, fullback, running back. He's a versatile player. And when I look at a guy like Shane Steichen, he helped coach up the Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert. Go out there and select Tyler Warren with this pick. And when you look at Tyler Warren as a tight end, he had 1,233 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns 8 receiving touchdowns. You rarely see tight ends get over 1,000 yards in college. That's the potential that he has in this league. You can compare him to Kyle Pitts, but I believe that he's a better blocker than Kyle Pitts. My comparison for Tyler Warren is a faster George Kittle. That's the potential that he has right now. So you get him with this pick. The 15th pick, you have the Atlanta Falcons. They selected Michael Penix Jr. in the first round. You have Drake London. You have Bijan Robinson. You have Kyle Pitts. You have Darnell Mooney on this roster. Your offense, they look good. You did pick up Kirk Cousins in free agency. That didn't work out for the back half of the season, but you have Michael Penix Jr. Your defense took a major step back. And Raheem Morris is defensive head coach. He needs an edge rusher. I have them going with a very good edge rusher here from Texas A&M, Shamar Stewart. Now, Shamar Stewart only have 1.5 sacks this year. You may call me crazy. He was getting double and triple teamed a lot. The numbers aren't there, but he had one of the highest pressure rates in college this year, playing at the SEC level. Go out there, select him, and you give Raheem Morris a bookend pass rusher coming off the edge, something that the Atlanta Falcons have been looking for many years now. With the 16th overall pick, we have the Arizona Cardinals. I can see the Cardinals trading back right here. I really can. But I don't have any teams making trades in the mock draft this time around. I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan. You have Trey McBride at tight end. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver. Your offense is fine. You could bring in another offensive lineman to help out Kyler Murray. I expect for them to do that in free agency. But when you have a guy like Kenneth Grant that's on the board, can go out there and stop the run, can get to the quarterback, he's similar to Leonard Williams, who made Kyler Murray's life hell in back-to-back games this year when they faced the Seattle Seahawks. Go out there, select Kenneth Grant from Michigan, and everything should be fine. With the 17th overall pick, we have the Cincinnati Bengals right here. The Bengals, they need a lot of help on their defense. We know what Joe Burrow is. He had an MVP caliber season this year. The only reason they did not make the NFL playoffs because their defense was so terrible. You had Sam Hubbard, only had 2.5 sacks on the year. Trey Hendrickson led the league in sacks. You need to bring in another edge rusher. Sam Hubbard is not a bad run stopper. When I look at Mike Green here, defensive end from Marshall, 17 sacks on the year. You hear that number, you may say, how is he not the best player in this draft class? Well, he played at Marshall. He played against a lot of terrible competition. But when he played against elite level competition, he still looked good. He did not have the same impact, but he was still impactful on the field. And when I look at the situation with the Bengals, you're not going to go out there and double team this rookie straight out the gate. That'll be asinine because you have Trey Hendrickson on the other side. He's going to be facing a lot of one-on-one action. So he should be over there and he should be a perfect fit with the Cincinnati Bengals. With the 18th pick, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks defense, they struggled in the beginning portion of the season. In the middle of the season, they played better. Towards the end of the season, they did struggle again. I have them selecting Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama. He can go out there and do everything that you want a linebacker to do. You did trade for Ernest Jones. You could bring him back next year, but still select Jahad Campbell with this pick. 5 sacks in the year, 2 forced fumbles. He had 55 solo tackles. And the one thing that they actually do at Alabama at that linebacker position is everything. He reminds me a lot of Reuben Foster, but he's better in man coverage and also in zone coverage than Reuben Foster, and he has his head on straight. And the one thing that Coach McDonald loves to revolve his defense around, linebacking play. The Seahawks, they need offensive line help. Don't get me wrong. But when I look at this defense, they're just one piece away from being dominant on a consistent basis. Their secondary, you have Tariq Woolen, you have Devin Witherspoon, and you have very good safeties over top also. So getting Campbell right here with this pick should be a home run. With the 19th overall pick, I have not had a cornerback go off the board just yet until now. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. He's a very good football player. The secondary has been a problem with Coach Bowles over the last 2 to 3 years, and part of that is because he's blitzing so much. Now, you can say the pass rush is not that consistent. Well, at the same time, he loves to blitz. We saw this early in his tenure with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when he was a defensive coordinator. We saw this many years ago with the New York Jets. You have a guy in Will Johnson that's a shutdown cornerback. 2 interceptions on the year, 3 pass deflections, and they were afraid to throw down his side of the field. That is what you're looking for. You're looking for that Jalen Ramsey prototype, and that's what Will Johnson is. With the 20th pick, we have the Denver Broncos. They made the NFL playoffs this year. This was a great season for the Denver Broncos. Ultimately, they did lose against the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, but it was Bo Nix's rookie year. Bo Nix, Rookie of the Year candidate. He may not win that award because of Jaden Daniels, but he was a phenomenal rookie this year. And he was throwing the football to really only one true number one wide receiver, and that was Courtland Sutton. We did see Devon go out there. He had some big moments at wide receiver. We also saw other players go out there and have huge moments as well. But when I look at the Denver Broncos, they could go Tez Johnson right here, who has a close relationship with Bo Nix off the field. But Luther Burden is just better. When I look at Luther Burden from Missouri, can do everything that you want out of a wide receiver. He can go deep down the field. He can go across the middle of the field. And he's a Sean Payton type of guy. Sean Payton loves to throw screens. Luther Burden, he's a very good player when you're throwing screens to him. He's very good on slants and drag routes and a bunch of hitches also and shallow crosses. That is the scheme of Sean Payton. A bunch of those plays over and over again. And you look at Luther Burden, he fits this system like a glove. It is too good to pass up on if you are the Denver Broncos. With the 21st pick, we have the Steelers. Now, the Steelers, they're in a bit of a pickle right now. You have Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Who do you want to bring back? Right now, it seems like they're going to bring back Justin Fields over Russell Wilson. Regardless of who your quarterback is going to be, you need wide receiving help because outside of George Pickens and Calvin Austin III, you didn't have that much productivity. You had Van Jefferson. It's not a good wide receiver, especially as a number 3. Roman Wilson was not even able to play this year, and he was a rookie. I look at Emeka Egbuka. He could come in and be a very good complementary wide receiver next to George Pickens. And this is the thing for the Steelers. They are very good at selecting wide receiving talent. Martavis Bryant, Juju Smith-Schuster, Antonio Brown, all those wide receivers that came before them also. They have an eye for talent. But when I look at Emeka Egbuka, he's a very good player. He can go out there, be a major deep threat for you, can do the nasty work for you across the middle of the field, big body wide receiver, and he did not get that much shine this year at Ohio State because he was on a loaded Ohio State team, but when they needed him to step up, he stepped up every single week. And Chip Kelly had a lot of great things to say about him, and the same with Coach Ryan Day, and he doesn't have the off-the-field issues like a George Pickens. They're going to re-sign George Pickens to a long-term extension, but if you want to move off of George Pickens, Emeka Egbuka, hopefully long-term can be your number one wide receiver if George Pickens cannot get his off-the-field antics into the right situations. And we're talking about penalties and all those dumb things on the field and all those question marks off the field also, because we've seen this with wide receivers in the past with the Steelers organization. And we also know this about Emeka Egbuka. This year, he had 81 catches for 1,011 receiving yards, 10 receiving touchdowns, and he averaged 12.5 yards a catch. So you have him and George Pickens, 2 potential number 1 wide receivers moving forward, should definitely help you out in this tough division when you're dealing with the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, and even the Cleveland Browns. Now we have the Los Angeles Chargers. They have the 22nd pick. They need help on the offensive end. We saw Coach Harbaugh come in. They made the NFL playoffs, and it was a good year for the Chargers. Justin Herbert was one of the most efficient quarterbacks this season in the NFL with taking care of the football. We did see that take a complete 180 against the Houston Texans in the playoffs, but overall, it was a very good year for Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, and Jesse Mentor with the defense. But they have glaring holes on the offensive end with the interior of their offensive line and at the wide receiving position. Knowing Coach Harbaugh, they may go offensive line with this pick, but they need wide receiving help in the worst way possible. Ladd McConkey is a very good wide receiver. Don't get me wrong. He was their best wide receiver this year. He was just a rookie. You have Quentin Johnson. They selected him in the first round a couple of years ago. Now, Coach Harbaugh did not do that. That was a different head coach. That was a different administration. They should have went with Zay Flowers. They need to go out there and right that wrong. I have them selecting Matthew Golden, wide receiver from Texas. He is similar to Zay Flowers. He has that wiggle in his game. 58 catches, 987 receiving yards on the season, 9 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 17 yards a catch. He would be that deep threat that the Chargers have been missing for quite some time. Even when they had good wide receiving play with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, they were not consistent deep threats down the field. You have this now with Matthew Golden. You mix him in on the outside, can put him inside the slot with Ladd McConkey and with Quentin Johnson. Your offense could take another step forward, and you bring back Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, the Chargers. They could be building something in a very good situation. And within the next couple of years, they could be a Super Bowl contender, because you look at Coach Harbaugh and his tenure with NFL teams and with college teams. He's one of those head coaches Everywhere he goes, he turns that program or even that organization into winners. With the 23rd pick, we have the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers made the NFL playoffs just like the Broncos, Steelers, and also the Chargers. But the Packers are in a very interesting spot. They dealt with a lot of injuries to the wide receiving position in the playoffs against the Eagles. And Jordan Love did not play his best game. They could use offensive line help. They could use wide receiving help. But this is what we know about the Packers. They usually don't draft wide receivers in the first round. I look at their defense. Their defense was up and down this year. Jeff Hafley, I think that he's going to be a very good defensive coordinator moving forward. This was his first season in the NFL as a defensive coordinator. The last time that we saw him on the field before the NFL, he was a head coach at Boston College. They need defensive help in the secondary. Jair Alexander has missed a lot of time. And I look at this situation with the Packers. You can't wait on him to come back. Usually when players get older, they don't get healthier. Jair Alexander has been injured the last 2 years, and they need him on the field. Unfortunately, they don't have another guy that can step in and be that true number one cornerback. But I look at Jahdae Barron, defensive back from Texas. He can play safety, nickel corner, outside cornerback. They even put him in dime linebacker in certain situations. You're not going to do that in the NFL level because he's only 5'11" and he only weighs 200 pounds. But anywhere the ball is at, he's going to be there. 11 pass deflections this year, 5 interceptions, and 46 solo tackles. He's one of those defensive backs. He's going to go out there. He's going to get his nose dirty. He loves physical contact, and he loves to press up at the line of scrimmage, and I can definitely see him fitting with the Green Bay Packers, and this should be the pick for the Packers. I could even see them trading up for a player like this because he is so versatile in that secondary. You're not going to see him play safety as much with the Packers because Xavier McKinney had a great year this season, but as an outside and inside cornerback, this is the type of player that you're looking for with Mr. Barron. With the 24th pick, we have the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold, will he be back? Will they let him go? So a lot of signs are pointing towards the Minnesota Vikings. They want to get cheaper. They don't want to bring back Sam Darnold on a big money deal. They could go with J.J. McCarthy, who they selected in the first round of last year's draft class with Dallas Turner. Their defense was very good all season long with Brian Flores calling shots, and he will be back for this upcoming season. But they need offensive line help. Sam Darnold did hold on to the football for too long against the Rams, but he got sacked 9 times. That should never happen. And JJ, he was not able to play his rookie season because he tore his meniscus in the preseason. You need to protect your investment, either if it's Sam Darnold or even JJ. Go out there and select Josh Cornerly, offensive lineman from Oregon. He can play guard. He can play tackle. The Minnesota Vikings need to get more physical up front with their defense and with their offense. Now, their defense, they are very physical, but they had moments that make you scratch your head, especially against the Rams. Their offensive line, they need a lot of power here. And I'm not talking about just having a bunch of finesse offensive linemen. I'm talking about having guys that can go out there and help you out in the run game. Kevin O'Connell is a great head coach. He's a great quarterbacks coach also. He does a great job with this offense. But sometimes he forgets about the run game and he neglects the offensive line. They have to select an offensive lineman with this pick, and hopefully it can help out the quarterback of the future. You have your key weapons with Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, who is one of the best wide receivers in the game, and you have TJ at the tight end spot. Go out there, get some more offensive linemen up front, and do not be surprised if the Vikings, if they select an offensive lineman in the first and the second round. And they may even go out there and bring in some more offensive linemen through free agency. This offensive line needs a complete revamp. We saw what happened when Christian went down, and Christian is one of the best tackles in the game. But besides him, they need offensive line help in the worst way possible. Speaking of offensive line help, with the 25th pick, we have the Houston Texans here. Now, the Houston Texans, even dating back to the Deshaun Watson days, they have not prioritized the offensive line. They made a trade for Laramie Tunsil a very long time ago. They have drafted Titus Howard, but it hasn't worked out in their favor. Laramie Tunsil is their best offensive lineman. But when I look at this offensive line, CJ, and back-to-back years has been one of the most pressured and one of the most sacked quarterbacks in this league. Your defense, they're great all the way through the front seven and through their secondary. They need to address this line. You could bring in another wide receiver, sure, but what good is it to have those wide receivers if CJ does not have the time in the pocket? He got sacked 8 times against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's part of the reason why they lost that playoff game a couple of months ago. I have them selecting Armin Membu, offensive lineman from Missouri. He's a very good tackle. He can play alongside Laramie Thompson while Titus Howard's playing guard. You go out there, get another offensive lineman to help out CJ on that right side, and hopefully it can give him some more protection. You can pick up a wide receiver in free agency because T. Higgins is the biggest name available. Not only just that, CJ is still in his rookie deal. So you can go out there and still be aggressive with those free agency decisions, but you have to protect your investment just like other teams throughout this draft. With the 26th pick, we have the Los Angeles Rams. And I have the Rams going out there, and I have them selecting Benjamin Morris, cornerback from Notre Dame, 6 foot, 195 pounds. In 2022, he had 6 interceptions. 2023, he had 3 interceptions. What quarterbacks figured out, we're not going to test this kid. We're going to go somewhere else on the field. He's a definition of a shutdown corner. He's not going to go out there and put up the great numbers on a consistent basis. And we saw that this year. He only had 3 pass deflections, 14 solo tackles. But that does not mean that he's a bad cornerback. Usually when you don't see cornerbacks have the crazy interceptions on the year, that's a good sign. That means that they're not getting tested out a lot. And that's what you want to see with the Los Angeles Rams. Their Achilles heel has been their secondary the last 2 years. They signed Tre'Davious White. They let him go. He went to the Baltimore Ravens. They need a true number 1 cornerback, and Benjamin Morris can be that cornerback with this team. With the 27th pick, we have the Baltimore Ravens. I have them selecting Jonah Savina, offensive lineman from Arizona. A very good offensive tackle. The one thing that we know about the Baltimore Ravens, they love to have aggressive offensive linemen. They have other needs in their secondary, but their secondary, they have good players. It was just a bunch of miscommunication with a brand new defensive coordinator and Zachary Orr. You have a chance to go out there and get one of the best offensive linemen in this draft class, put him at the right tackle position, and help build this offensive line. You saw what the Ravens did all season long, even against the Steelers in that matchup. They ran the football, and this is a Baltimore Ravens type of pick. Remember, they went out there a few years back and they selected Tyler Linderbaum in the first round, and he's one of the best offensive linemen in the league right now. With the 28th pick, we have the Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchinson went down. They acquired Zadarius Smith from the Cleveland Browns in a very good trade. Zadarius Smith was their best pass rusher when Aiden Hutchinson went down. They need more pass rushing help. They selected Terrion Arnold last year in the first round. Their secondary, they're up and down, but they have good players like Kirby Joseph, and they also have another good cornerback with this roster that is young, and he ended the season IR in Ennis. So I don't see them going out there and selecting another cornerback with this pick. You go out and you get Jack Sawyer, edge rusher from Ohio State. Now, you can still keep Zadarius Smith around. Obviously, you're going to have Aiden Hutchinson. He was on pace to go out there and win Defensive Player of the Year before he suffered that leg injury against the Dallas Cowboys. But let's just say Aiden Hutchinson goes down again. Let's knock on wood. Or Zadarius Smith goes down. You have Jack Sawyer, who can come in and be similar to Aiden Hutchinson. He reminds me a lot of Aiden Hutchinson. You look at the play that he had against Texas and Quinn Ewers. He won them that football game off that one play alone. A very good pass rusher, can stop the run, and he does have to come in right now and be a day one starter. He could be that rotational pass rusher, and when it's time to move off of Zadarius Smith, you have him and you have Aiden Hutchinson, and you need as much pass rush as possible in this division, dealing with Caleb Williams and dealing with J.J. McCarthy also, and the same with Jordan Love. With the 29th pick, we have the Washington Commanders. I have them selecting James Pierce Jr., edge rusher from Tennessee. He fits the system of Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn loves to have defensive ends that can go back there, pin their ears back, and get to the quarterback. But it's a bit different with this edge rusher. He is very good at getting to the passer. That's what he's known to do. He's also known to stop the run, something that the Washington Commanders have struggled to do all year long. And even against Saquon in the NFL playoffs, and the same against Jahmyr Gibbs in that playoff encounter. You get 2-1 right here. You get a player that's very good against the run, can pin his ears back and get to the quarterback on a consistent basis. And expect for the Washington Commanders to make a lot of moves this offseason because Jaden Daniels is on that rookie contract and they have a lot of money to play with in free agency. This is where we get into the portion of the video behind the Bills pick to where it comes down to who I believe will win the Super Bowl. So we'll talk about that in the next couple of minutes. We have the Buffalo Bills here. Have them selecting Trey Amos, cornerback from Ole Miss. Fits the Sean McDermott system, can come in and give you very good protection on the back end of your defense. They had some plays this year that makes you scratch your head. The defense did play very well, but you need to get younger on the back end, and you can get better with a versatile player like this in your secondary. With the 31st pick, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, even if the Kansas City Chiefs win or lose the Super Bowl, I do believe that they will select the tight end in the first round. Colston Loveland, tight end from Michigan. He's a do-it-all tight end, can block, and can also go down the field and give you big plays. Travis Kelce is not going to play forever. He did say that he wants to go out there and play for a couple more years. That's fine. You bring in Colston to learn from Travis Kelce, and hopefully it can be a seamless transition with Travis Kelce going to Colston, and it gives Patrick Mahomes yet another weapon. They can go offensive line with this pick, but they went offensive line in last year's draft class. Let those tackles develop. You bring in Colston, who is ready to play right now. You can run a 2 tight end set, a tighter formation with Patrick Mahomes, and you can put the league on watch. And with the 32nd pick, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Cameron Williams, offensive tackle from Texas. Let's build for the future. Lane Johnson is not going to play forever, similar to Travis Kelce in that situation. And whenever Lane Johnson goes down, the Philadelphia Eagles do not look the same. They take a major step back. And we saw that even when Carson Wentz was a starting quarterback. Go out there, bring in a tackle that can learn from Lane Johnson, and within the next few years, he could be your starting tackle. And the one thing the Philadelphia Eagles have done a great job of over the last 5 to 8 years is go out there and draft offensive linemen and draft in the trenches with the defense. So that's the full first round mock draft. Let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about this video, and what would you change in this mock draft? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys.